Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hello, friends. Welcome to this week's episode of the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I am thrilled for you to tune in into this week's episode. I had the pleasure of interviewing Anjali Pradhan of Dahlia Wealth, and in this episode, her and I just jammed on money, investing for women, and why it's such a smart thing to do, no matter how old you are. And her and I just had so much fun talking, so I'm excited for you to tune in. And here's a little bit about Anjali. Anjali is a money coach who teaches women how to build their money through investing and entrepreneurship. Sweet and simple. I'm so excited for you to learn about her. Definitely go to her website, follow, connect with her on Instagram. All the links are in show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it. Tag us both on stories or however you share your media content. And stay tuned for next week's episode. All right, have a great week and enjoy this episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm so excited for our guest today. Anjali Pradhan joins us from Montreal, and her and I connected actually through the House of the House of Wealth Embodiment, hosted by Victoria Washington. And Anjali came on to do some training around investments. And I really love Anjali's perspective, and she's really an advocate for women independence and having ownership of our own finances. So I'm so excited to have you on, Anjali.
Great. Nice to be here, Michelle. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, well, we were just before we were hitting record, we were talking about well, we can talk about inflation, we can talk about all the things. And then I even talked to you a little bit about crypto. And I love your perspective because I've been following you on Instagram for a while, and you're all about the long game. So I would love to hear your story and just how you do things.
Oh, wow. That's a very broad question. So I can tell you maybe the origin story of why I started my business.
Yes.
So I studied finance at university here in Canada, and then I just had really itchy feet and I wanted to see the world. So I moved to London, England with basically just my a large hockey bag full of my belongings and my university certificate. And I set out to sort of see the world and carve a career for myself in London. I just figured, that's kind of one of the world's financial centers, and I just really wanted to sink my teeth into this industry / career. I ended up staying there for a whole 5 years, so pretty much throughout my 20s. And my career went sort of from strength to strength. And by the time towards the end, I was promoted to a VP level position at the age 28 at one of the world's leading investment managers. And then the financial crisis hit. So the 2008 crisis hit right around the time that I was actually promoted. I had this big, exciting promotion. And I also was relocated from the London office where I'd made my home and friends and all of that to a satellite office in Amsterdam. But I figured, it was for my career. And so I was happy to make that move. But unfortunately, barely a few weeks into my stay in this new country, Lehman Brothers went under. The 2008 crash really hit hard. And like a lot of my colleagues, I was laid off. And then, so at that point, I kind of decided, I just really want to be closer to home. So I decided to come back to come back to Canada. Um, where I have my friends, most of my friends and family, to be closer to them. And I knew that, it was not ideal timing to look for a new job to be job hunting in the world of banking, but I was patient. But I realized after much trying and applying to literally hundreds of job postings, which I still have on my hard drive somewhere, and I'll have some sort of like cleansing ceremony at some point, some sort of digital cleansing ceremony. Applying to hundreds of jobs, attending dozens of in-person interviews across the continent, so across Canada and the US, I came up empty-handed, which was really quite strange considering up until that point, my career was flourishing. And I'd worked for the top investment banks and done really well for myself. And then the penny dropped. I realized that the reason that I wasn't landing anything even remotely close to what my capabilities were, and what my career experience would have normally brought, is that I was being shut out of the boys club. Still very much to this day, this was 10 years ago, but still very much to this day, the financial industry is very much a boys club, and a white boys club at that. And Michelle, as you can see me, I'm neither of those things. I'm a woman of color. And so at that point, I had a decision to make. Do I continue down this corporate path, which I had envisaged for myself? I didn't, I had kind of imagined that I would continue in the world of banking indefinitely and probably till retirement. Or do I leave the industry altogether and do my own thing and start my own business? And around that time, I had a friend who suggested that I teach women how to invest their own money, because she herself had some money that needed to be invested and had no clue. And after much sort of prodding and persistence on the behalf of this friend, I finally decided, okay, let's give it a try. There's like, what is holding me back? And so, fast forward several years, and that's what I do. I teach women how to invest their money.
I love it. It's so crazy, like the boys club, because it's like, it's so true. Even like looking at financial reports and documents, a lot of it is so cryptic. And I feel like, and I hear a lot of stories of women, meeting with financial advisors that are like the white guys. And it's like, there's this level of disconnect. So I really appreciate what you're doing.
100%. And that's another reason that I started this business, is that, my friend had this advisor, and she was like, he doesn't listen to what I say. And I kept on, like, he doesn't listen to my wishes. And I kept on hearing this story like over and over again from women. Like, I have an advisor that doesn't really understand me, or I can't find an advisor at all that I can connect with. And I realized this is a real problem. This is a real societal problem, that, women's financial needs aren't met at this basic level. And so, that's another reason I decided, like, initially I thought this is a job for someone else. Like, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a coach, I don't have a background in any of these things. But like, after hearing the same story over and over again, and also the statistic that women are twice as likely to be in poverty at retirement, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, where I said, no, it has to be now, and it's got to be me, because there's no one else really doing this work.
Yeah. And even for your story, I mean, you've been like, since you've started your own business, you've stayed on your own business track, right? And so even with your own investments, you've been able to stay ahead of the curve, from what I understand.
Yeah, no. So I not only did I kind of study finance and work in finance, but I started investing my own money at the age of 19. I made some mistakes like at the beginning and along the way, but investing my own money was the way, was what made it possible for me to start my own business. Because if you are, living paycheck to paycheck, or, like one paycheck away from not being able to pay your bills, it doesn't give you a whole lot of breathing room to live your, we call it here, your boss life, the life where you're the boss and you're in control. Like, you don't get to call the shots if you're living on a razor's edge of, of your money game. And the fact that I started investing early, that I saved aggressively and started investing early, really was the difference between me and a lot of other women that I see. I don't think I'm any different. I don't think I'm any like smarter, better at money management, or say for like saving and investing. Like, I'm not smarter than anyone else. Or I didn't get lucky either with some hot stock tip. Like, I didn't buy Facebook when it first IPO'd. I don't have rich parents. Like, I grew up financially comfortable, but like I'm not a trust fund baby by a long shot. That what differentiates me and my story from a lot of other women is literally just the fact that I started investing early.
So what would you say for people who maybe they're like, where would they even start? And also if they're like, well, I don't have a lot of money to invest.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I get this a lot from women who are like, yeah, I don't have a lot of money to invest. What's the minimum I can invest? So here's the thing, like in the olden days, we had to go through gatekeepers like brokers, or financial advisors to invest. But today, because of primarily because of self-directed brokerage accounts, basically a DIY online brokerage account that anyone can open, investing has become a lot more accessible. The kind of caveat is that you need to know how to invest, because it assumes like they don't really guide you. It's like, yes, here's this portal into the financial markets, like the stock market, the bond markets, but you have to know how to navigate. It's like going to the ocean, being like, oh, you can go anywhere you want. You can, go cross the Atlantic and go to, Europe or, Africa, but like, you need to know how to do that. So that's kind of where I come in. I realized that, what, again, when, that moment when I decided, yeah, this is where, this is my life's calling, is that I have a key that I can give to other women so that they can unlock their financial freedom. And, it would be selfish for me to keep it to myself. It's like some knowledge. It's like knowledge on how to, a very, it seems benign, but like, how do I use an online brokerage account? What do I pay attention to? There's so many numbers, there's like charts. So, if you're someone that, maybe has attempted to start investing, but like saw some of this stuff and just felt overwhelmed, you're not alone. There's a lot of information, both, everywhere about investing, and it can be overwhelming. It's critical to know what to screen out. Okay. There's the type of investing I teach in DIY index investing, you actually need to pay attention to very few things, but when you go to the internet, it's like drinking from a fire hose of investment information. So that's like the main thing. It's not that there isn't enough information out there. Well, two things. It's not that there isn't enough information. There's actually too much. But also most of the information is investing information and news is created by men for men. And the way that women learn about investing is different. The way that women learn in general is different. We learn better through, normally when you see something about investing or an like ad for mutual funds, there's always like some chart numbers. Whereas women actually learn better through examples and stories told by other women, which that's really not the way that investment information is conveyed. So, my coaching program, I really built it from the ground up, with the women's natural talents and also are the way that we learn. So, I mean, so going back to your question, what are the first steps you can take? It is about educating yourself, and about sifting out all, excess information. And sometimes that involves, not to sort of like, sell my services, but sometimes it is about taking the leap and investing in some coaching and getting a guide. I've learned this like in other facets of my life, probably because I am a coach myself. I've realized that, hey, if I want to do something quickly and efficiently and I want to learn, hiring someone, I hired a personal trainer during COVID because I was like, I don't know how to work out at home. Like, who's kidding who? And it was like the best decision that I've made. I hired an accountant a few years ago because that's for my business, because I was like, you know what? I don't really want to figure this out. I want someone to help me. So, that's true with investing as well. And there's absolutely, I think probably the most critical thing is that there is no shame in getting someone to teach you how to manage your money and how to invest your money. Sometimes women think, I've done well in my career and, I'm an intelligent, educated person, but, so I'm kind of embarrassed that I haven't figured this investing thing out yet. But I mean, you wouldn't say that about, medicine. Like if you're sick, you go to a doctor, you don't try to get a medical degree. If you're smart, you also don't go on WebMD and try to figure it out yourself. You just go to a doctor. They've been to school for it. They'll get you the answer that you need without wasting time. And so investing is the same. There's absolutely no shame in asking for help.
I so appreciate that. And also I feel like sometimes it can be confusing because there are like financial analysts that work at particular like financial companies that you can hire and they'll take your money and invest for you. And then there are just like the DIY. And then and I feel like, or you hire someone to like, that's basically the options. So either
a financial advisor.
Yeah. Or you do it yourself. And I've actually, personally, I think I've done like a mix in my own past. And then I've hired someone who like I paid them, but they're not associated with any company. They're actually on my behalf and they're looking at my goals and stuff, more like a one-on-one person. But the caveat to that is like, okay, great, but my goals have kind of changed. So like, what do I invest in now? Like, what do I need to do to tweak the things, especially with the economy now? And it's like, you know what? I think I want to learn it myself so that I don't have to keep hiring someone to do it for me. Which I feel like is actually more empowering if I actually know, well, okay, this is where I want to be in a few years. And this is the short term, long term, and then retirement. And it sounds like what you offer is you can guide someone to do that because you're just teaching them how to manage their money through investments.
Exactly. So I'm not a financial advisor. It's not that I don't have the knowledge. I'm a chartered financial analyst, which means that I can tell people how to invest, but A, I'm not allowed to, and B, it doesn't go with my philosophy. I think that everyone that's listening, and you, Michelle, you're able to invest your own money given the right tools. And you hit on something really important, and that's the empowerment bit. Whether you like that word or not, some people are not into that word. It's just about having the tools to make the right decision for yourself, the tools and the confidence. And because you essentially are the best person to manage your own money. You make all the big important financial decisions in your life. You don't outsource, if you're buying a house or a condo, you're not going to like outsource that to someone else. Negotiating your salary at work, you're going to do that yourself. And there's no reason why you should outsource your investing, because ultimately no one is going to care as much about your money game and about your money as you do. And you're in the best position because, you also mentioned your goals. You know what your goals are. You know what your life goals are. And that's why in my coaching program, we actually start with your goals. So there's retirement. Yes. We all need to slow down at some point. But even that, the timing of that can be maybe a lot earlier than you think if you invest your money properly. That's something that a lot of people don't realize. or maybe you can go part-time, and then work less. How many people would like love to work less or be work optional? This is a term that just means, yeah, work if you want to, but you have the capacity, the financial capacity to walk away from a job that isn't serving you, which is a hugely empowering thing because no one can take advantage of you if you don't need them. If you can walk away, if you're being, underpaid or don't have a good work life balance or just like, not treated well, like that's a hugely powerful tool that you have. Be like, I don't need this. I can either not work at all, or I have the financial flexibility to, spend a year figuring out what I want to do next. So yeah, that's why we start with, and the other thing is that a lot of people think of investing only in terms of retirement. Well, a lot of my students and me as well, like I was work optional by the age of 28 by the time I left London. I didn't work during my 30s. Like I'm 42 now, but throughout my 30s, before I started this business, I spent my time traveling. I studied for my charter, and then I took my time figuring out kind of business I wanted to start. And all this was because of my financial cushion that investing afforded me. So, I want people to be excited about their financial future. I want them to be excited about investing. And that you really, that when you have a goal in mind, like let's say it's like, I want to quit my job in 5 years and start my business, or I want to be able to spend more time at home with my kids. That's a hugely powerful motivator. And we hear this concept of the why, and I go back to it a lot because I'm not a huge fan of like budgeting, like spreadsheet budgeting. Like anyone who's followed me for a hot minute knows that I'm not into that, just because I think that's go attacking the symptoms, not the root. Like I want you to feel that, and I'm not talking about extreme situations of like people who are living, around like hovering around the poverty line. I'm talking about people, who have a decent paycheck, and can, or income, and can, just don't know where their money's going, for example. If you have a goal in terms of your financial future and your life goals, if you have a goal that's like, I want to spend more time at home with my kids, I want to, take a year off and travel around the world in a yacht, like that is a hugely powerful motivator. And you will not be spending money frivolously if you have an objective and you give your money a job. If you give every $1 a job, it's not going to go here, there, and everywhere. You're going to be like, no, I don't want to go on this bachelorette weekend away. I've said no to so many things confidently, unapologetically, because it wasn't in line with my life goals. 40th birthday parties in Vegas. I'm like, no. It was an easy no, because I knew that what I was saving and investing towards.
I love that. That is like super powerful and hot. Like just to like what you were saying around being able to say no with confidence because you know where you're heading. That's incredible. And I love that your own personal investments allowed you to not have to work for like at least 10 years. It's like, oh my God. And it's not through, maybe it was business related, but mostly it sounds like it was through your investments.
Yeah, I mean, it was my investments. Like I figured I was too young to like just sit around and do nothing. So, and this is something that I'm really passionate about. I decided to open my business, but yeah, initially it was all lived off of my investments. And the weird thing is, Michelle, I was embarrassed about my story for a long time just because it was so unusual. No one could understand it. And, no one understood my reality. And, And I hid it for a long time. And I'm like, what? Like now people are like, oh, like the work optional idea has become like completely mainstream since COVID. And people are like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, so it just goes to show like you could be living someone else's dream and not even realize
If
it.
I have known you in my early 20s, like, you're my hero. Let's get started. Like, oh my goodness, that's incredible. And there was, something that came to mind because you started investing when you were 19. How about for people who maybe are in their, later in their years, maybe they're in late 30s or 40s?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't want that story to discourage anyone. That's like not at all the point. Most people do start investing later than, when they were like just out of high school. But I mean, yeah, it's the earlier you start, the better. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. It's just that the longer you put it off, the harder you'll have to work, the more money you'll have to put away for the same result. So, there's, yeah, just, it's not too late, but, don't delay because time waits for no one. And really, time is your biggest asset when growing your wealth, because time and compounding do the heavy lifting for you.
Okay. I love that. Time and compounding. Yes, I love the compound. Okay, so we were talking about inflation sort of before we hit start or record, and I do want to talk about crypto because I've seen your stories around your thoughts around crypto, and this is so fascinating because I have different friends that play in crypto. I think right now is, I don't know. I have lots of thoughts. So let's talk about inflation because I actually was traveling around the globe and just returned to Seattle like a month ago. And I had like the most sticker shock of my life. My dad warned me. He's like, hey, when you head back, like everything is probably going to be doubled and gas price, everything. So let's talk inflation.
Yeah, inflation is causing a lot of people a lot of stress, especially, yeah, everyone. It's causing everyone a lot of stress. Inflation has hit everything, like you said, everything from like, housing has been like, there's affordability problems there. There is, gas prices have gone up and food. And they're all kind of related, like the gas prices feed into petroleum prices feed into a lot of our economy. And we just didn't realize how much until now. And so, yeah, a lot of people are worried. And so things that you can do in order to sort of like feel in control again, I think, not feeling in control leads to a lot of anxiety. And like things that you can do to get back in the driver's seat of this, of your money game, and maybe get on top of inflation. And maybe because I'm an investing coach, I'm going to tell you that actually investing is, and especially in the stock market, is one of the best ways to stay on top of inflation. So it's not going to bring your grocery bill down. But, when, let's say, the prices of goods and services go up, that feeds into the bottom line of corporations, and then their stock price goes up. So you are, there's a natural hedge there to inflation. That's my best tip. That's my best tip. I mean, then we can also talk about like the recession that's coming. That's another another, I'm full of good news today. But I mean, I think we're at a really good time in history where people can, have more control over their income than previous generations, primarily because of the internet. And because right now, because of work from home, a lot of people are, they have a side gig and it's way more doable because they just, anyways, I'm not going to tell you work from home tricks, but but suffice to say, people out there are kind of like have their day job and then their side gig. We're just, we're not commuting as much as before, so there's that time savings. And there is the internet where you can sell your services. And it doesn't take, you don't need a huge investment of like a factory or inventory. It's just you're selling your intellectual capital, for example, in the form of, could be coaching, could be an ebook, could be, courses, online courses like me. So there are ways to kind of, boost your bottom line while taking control back. And who knows, like if your, side gig is successful enough and you're motivated enough to make it work, like you could actually transition from your corporate, or, your 9 to 5 to going full-time in your side gig. I've seen that happen a lot where people are like, yeah, my side gig is really where my heart is, and they transition. So there also, you're a lot more in control of your income and money game.
So with the recession, well, I just feel like it's all part of the cycle, because 2008, I was hit as well. That was a recession. And here we are, 14 years later, another recession. So I just feel like it's really normal.
100%. It's all part of the cycle. It's just that the last recession was like a long time ago. Normally they're a lot closer. Like they're a lot there's fewer years, months in between each recession. So it's like, especially younger people, like don't even remember like 2008 recession and how like painful it was. But yeah, it is 100% cyclical. The recessions are, the economy is cyclical. The stock market is cyclical. Stocks are down right now. And some people are freaking out, but I'm like, this is actually a really good time to buy and to get into the market. And, if you haven't started investing, this is like the ideal time to sort of like almost make up for lost time, because you can scoop up stocks really cheap, like, equities. So, there's, especially if you're young and you're a long ways away from retirement and needing that money, like low stock price is actually good because it allows you to buy equities at a discount.
So let's talk about crypto, because I from what I've seen, you're like, okay, crypto should not be your retirement plan. That's what you've shared. I also have a lot of friends that have only invested in crypto because it was such a quick cash injection. And also, like right now, it's so low that I don't even know if it's even worth. Like, who knows about the history and like just the future of crypto? But I would love your thoughts.
Yeah, so I read something like a little while ago that really, I don't know, I found it really disturbing that like a lot of millennials are investing in crypto for their retirement than like stocks and bonds. And that is an alarming fact. It was super alarming. And this was like before kind of crypto crashed as bad as it did. And I have a lot of thoughts. So, we hear a lot about, first of all, let me just start here. Crypto it's like a cesspool for scams. Okay, like that's a fact. Like just from the way it's set up. And then we have like celebrities coming, not less now, but like, even 6 months ago, celebrities coming and, posting in their stories about a certain coin and telling people to invest in it. And we have people, well-known business people saying like endorsing certain coins. And so this all makes us feel that like, this is how these people became wealthy. And, FOMO, you don't want to be left out, like everyone's doing it. And the truth is, wealthy people, this is not how they became wealthy because crypto is new. B, and this is like the most salient point, is that even people, rich people that have invested in crypto, they've only invested a very small percentage of their overall wealth in crypto. That's what most people don't understand. People like Elon Musk has not dumped all their money into crypto. they've invested like 0.5% of their wealth into crypto, maybe, that type of thing. I don't know about Elon Musk, but I'm just saying. And so we're taking what they're saying and we're like kind of distorting it and just dumping all our money into this thing that's largely unproven, meaning like we don't have, it doesn't have a lot of history. And something as important as your retirement, like this is how you will pay to live. This will has how you're going to pay for groceries, when you're older. Like it is too important to trust something that is so unproven and has such a little history. So, people come to me and they're like, oh, what do you think is going to happen with such and such stock? Or, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, because your retirement and your future is too important to be reliant on me being right or wrong. So the methods that I teach are actually have been proven, like through, the last sort of like 50, 100 years, from people investing their money through math, like, like people who've invested this way. And it's like a super low hassle, low stress method that I teach. There's no like researching different stocks or following the stock market every day. You like set up a foundation for your investment, for your investments, and you like, spend a good amount of kind of effort, kind of making sure that it's the way you need. But then once it's like a foundation of a house, like once if you set the foundation properly, you don't need to worry about, is my house going to, like, your house can be there if the foundation is good, right? And so it's the same thing with investing. If your foundation is solid, if you have a solid game plan, you don't need to worry about it. And countless other investors have come before you using these same methods. That's where you want your, retirement money to go. Something that has been proven and solid that you don't need to worry about. Like my students don't worry about like, stock market crashing, maybe they'll come and be like, oh, what should I do about inflation? But they're not, no one's panicking because they know they have a solid game plan. And the other thing about crypto, for me as a money coach, what kind of I find a little bit worrisome is that people who want to make a quick buck, whether it's through crypto or something else, typically they don't have a very good money mindset or relationship to money. If you have financial maturity, you know that there is no free lunch. And if something is spiked up in price, astronomically in the last little while, that should really scare you, because, if what comes up goes up can come down. Like as quickly as it went up, it can totally come down. We saw that with like the meme stocks like AMC and GameStop. And so, we need to be aware of bubbles, but like people who are like, yeah, the crypto is going to save me, I find it kind of both distressing and kind of sad in terms of how kind of the millennial / Gen Z generation has like latched onto it. Like, and it's not, I'm slightly older than millennial, but it's not the fault of this generation necessarily. There are a lot of financial pressures that have kind of led to people feeling out of control and panicking and trusting something that's largely unproven.
Yeah, I mean, I interviewed Cheyenne around crypto, and it was like, it seems like, and I do have I invested in a very small dollar amount in it because I was like, well, why not, right? Well, I was willing to lose what I invested in. But
and that's exactly how it should be. You should be willing to lose what you've put in it in terms of like something as risky as crypto.
Yeah, and I was like, and then I had my business coach, she shared like this documentary on how crypto's a scam. And I was like, I don't want to watch that because it's true. It's like, it's not proven. We don't really know the future of it. And there's so much potential for scams, and a lot of people have gotten scammed. So it's one of those things where I appreciate you're very like pragmatic about it. And it's like, hey, that cannot be your retirement. Like, that's just not good.
And up until 6 months ago, or like before crypto started heading downhill, I got a lot of hate for my stance on crypto. and was like, oh, you're like, especially from like Gen Z bros, or like, oh, not you're I have a bigger appetite for risk. It's like, okay, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been investing for, since you were in grade school. I've been working in the industry for a long time, and I've been investing for over 2 decades. Like, I've seen the ups and downs of the market. I've seen other bubbles, whether it's like crypto is not the first sort of like, unproven investment out there. In the early 2000s, we had the tech bubble. Yeah, technology stocks are still around. They've generated a lot of wealth for investors, myself included. But, at the beginning, there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of, a bubble, developed because people were just like blindly throwing their money into it. And then ultimately, the bottom feeders or the less strong companies were like wiped out, like weeded out. But you at the beginning of any new investment category, you have to be willing to. It's like a washing machine. Like it's not going to be comfortable.
That's good. Yeah. So I think it's like, well, with anything, you just have to be willing to, it's risk, even with investments. But I just feel like with what you're sharing with index funds, it's been around long enough that there's more research available.
Yeah, 100%. And like, there's a lot of like, just like math that goes behind it that I won't bore you with, but you're taking risk, and you can take as much, you can take more, like based on your individual situation. You can take more risk even in an index fund portfolio or an ETF portfolio. You can take more risk. I was working with a one-on-one client the other day, and she, we tweaked her risk tolerance, and we figured out what her risk tolerance was, and then we developed what we call asset allocation, which is essentially like what percentage you put in different categories of investments, like stocks versus bonds. And like, based on your individual situation, you can take more or less risk. It's not a one size fits all situation. But just it's like a controlled type of risk. It's also you're getting bang for your buck for the risk that you're taking. It's not like stupid risk. It's like calculated risk.
I love it. So speaking of which, how can people learn about your work, connect with you, all the things?
Yeah, so they can. I have a free training where that'll go more in depth into the type of investing that I teach, where I talk about the 3 big mistakes that I see people making all the time with investing, that 3 mistakes people are making that are holding them from investing and growing their wealth. And you can grab that training at dahliawealth.com. And Dahlia, that's Dahlia with a H, DAHLIA wealth.com. And it's absolutely free. And, if you do nothing else than to just like watch this training to start educating yourself, that's a really good step forward. And then I'm on Instagram. My handle is at Dahlia_wealth. And I've recently started posting on LinkedIn. And maybe we can put that in the show notes.
That's all going to be in the show notes.
Yeah. So I've started posting on LinkedIn as well, so you can follow me there. But yeah, like I am happy to connect with any of your listeners. I love teaching women how to invest and become empowered. So, do check us out.
Awesome. And is it only for women if men want to join?
So the reason I focused on women is just because we've traditionally been excluded from the financial industry. But it's not at all meant to, my stance is not at all meant to exclude people. Anyone can join of any gender. We have men, we have non-binary folks. So we have, everyone is welcome. Anyone that's really felt excluded or not catered to by the traditional financial industry can find, is welcome and can find a home. And if my message resonates with you, Yeah, don't be shy to come our way.
Awesome. And then you have the group coaching program. People want to start learning about how to actually invest.
Exactly. Yeah. And at the end of the free training, I kind of talk about the group coaching program and yeah, I'm really proud of actually my group coaching program. I started doing one-on-one coaching, and then I realized, I can actually package my knowledge and more people can learn, and I don't have to charge as much. Like, I want to provide value, and I think the group coaching program is really, is a great way to do that, to make it more accessible to a wider range of people.
Amazing. It was so fun to talk. Thank you so much for being on the show. Yeah, for those listening, please follow and connect with Anjali. She is really fun on Insta. And I so appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, Michelle.
Thank you. To help you feel more supported and nourished in your body and nervous system, you're invited to download the free I Am Supported meditation in the show notes. May you feel grounded in who you are as you become the fullest expression of yourself. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing with those who can benefit. Until next time.